What's up with these sorry politicians? Lots of bark. When it's showtime, whimpering like little shih tzus. You want big cuts? Ron Paul's been screaming it for years. Budget crisis? No problem. Cut $1 trillion year one. That's trillion with a T. Department of Education? Gone. Interior, Energy, HUD, Commerce? Gone. Later, bureaucrats. That's how Ron Paul rolls. Want to drain the swamp? Ron Paul. Do it.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
No, I'm not a racist. As a matter of fact, Rosa Parks is one of my heroes. Martin Luther King is a hero because they practice the libertarian principle of civil disobedience, nonviolence. Libertarians are incapable of being a racist because racism is a collectivist idea. You see people in groups. A civil libertarian like myself see everybody as an important individual. It's not the color of their skin that is important, as Martin Luther King said. What is important is the character of the individual. You know what is really interesting, though, and this might be behind this, because I, as a Republican candidate, probably am getting the most number of black votes and black supporters, and now that has to be undermined. And I do this because I attack two wars that blacks are suffering from. One, the war overseas. In all wars, minorities suffer the most. So they join me in this position I have against the war in Iraq. And what about the war on drugs? What other candidate will stand up and fight in the can and say, I would pardon all blacks, all whites, everybody who are convicted for nonviolent drug acts and drug crimes? And this is where the real discrimination is. Let me finish this because I got to get my message back because you put the other message out. Now, if you want to look for discrimination, it's in the judicial system. 14% of the inner city blacks commit drug crime. 67% of blacks are in prison. That's discrimination. That's the judicial code that I am attacking, and that is not racism. What I defend is the principle of libertarianism, where we never see people who belong to a group, and every individual is defended and protected because they're important in the individual, not because of their color of skin, but of their character.
The more I read this stuff, the more I think, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time to take our chances with Dr. Ron Paul.
Millions of tax dollars are spent on this type of computer surveillance, a disgusting procedure for a professed free society.
They're overstepping the bound. Just the other day, they walked into somebody's house. They suspected he was a drug dealer. He was using his automatic selector, and then police marched in, and they said it looked like a gun after they killed the man. In America! Is that what America's all about? I'd say no. We want privacy.
Less government for individual liberty, get the government off our backs, a more sensible foreign policy.
I'm very disappointed that so far in this Congress we have not yet seen any sincere effort to cut any spending. There's something wrong here that could and should be adjusted with decreased spending, not raising taxes, and not further robbing the Social Security Trust Fund.
The more we threat, the more we intimidate, the more we want to bomb people, the more we're leading into another fiasco like Vietnam. We trade with Vietnam now. That's a much better way than trying to impose our will on Vietnam by going over there and dropping bombs. So I would say that this just points out again that we have a very, very poor foreign policy in the Middle East.
I wish the Congress would address the unconstitutionality of presidents waging war. That, to me, is a lot more serious than Monica Lewinsky, let me tell you.
The corporations are in bed with the government.
Peace and harmony can never be achieved by bombs and intimidation. Mr. Speaker, over the last 3 to 4 years, I've come to the floor on numerous occasions trying to sound a warning about both our foreign policy and our monetary policy. The cause is the Federal Reserve. The cause is the problem is the Federal Reserve has been granted authority that is unconstitutional to go and counterfeit money. And until we recognize that and deal with that, we will continue to have financial problems. I do not see any reason whatsoever to take young men and young women and send them 6,000 miles off to a land to attack a country that has not committed any aggression against this country. War is not popular. People get killed and body bags end up coming back.
I don't want anybody's legs shot off for some reason that is not justified, and it's not a declared war. I think that should be the litmus test of everybody in this country and everybody over on the Hill, too. If this war is worth fighting, are you willing to go and lose your legs, lose your life, or send your kids or send your grandkids?
Will our country become freer, richer, safer, and more peaceful? Or will we continue to suffer from lost civil liberties, a stagnant economy, terrorist threats, and an expanding war in the Middle East and Central Asia? Is it not possible that George Washington's admonition to avoid entangling alliances is sound advice even today? Both candidates supported the war in Iraq and the continuation of it. Both supported the Patriot Act and its controversial attack on personal privacy.
The true patriot will repeal the Patriot Act, is what they will do.
Both candidates supported increased spending in almost all categories. I'm the most conservative member here. I have voted, against more spending and wasting government than anybody else.
Freedom, prosperity, and peace.
Just come home. We just marched in. We can just come home.
We have allowed our nation to be overtaxed and overregulated and overrun by bureaucrats. The founders would be ashamed of us for what we're putting up with. A system designed to protect individual liberty will have no punishments for any group and no privileges. Today, I think inner city folks and minorities are punished unfairly in the war on drugs.
It is our job to check up and find what the Federal Reserve has done, audit them, and find out who their buddies are that they're taking care of.
It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.